When I look back on the games that really defined me as a player, one of the earliest examples I can think of is that of Dragon Age Origins, a game I originally played just over 10 years ago at the time of this recording. And in those 10 years, when I look back on the games that I've played and enjoyed the most, I can very much see that they all have specific ties that lead them all the way back to Dragon Age Origins, whether it be a high fantasy setting, or a narrative that I am allowed to shape in my own way, or a game where I can just customize my own character. A lot of the things that I really enjoyed the most in Dragon Age Origins are things that I would seek out in many other games going forward, and is one of the games that definitively solidified RPGs as my favorite video game genre of all time. But like I said, I initially played Dragon Age Origins just over 10 years ago. And now with Dragon Age the Veilguard right around the corner, very much right around the corner, there was no better time to go back to an old beloved classic of mine than now. And so, 10 years later, how does Dragon Age Origins hold up by today's standards? Let's find out. This is the Overdue review for Dragon Age Origins. And now, if you are unfamiliar with what the Overdue review is, allow me to tell you. For the first part of the Overdue review, I will be talking about Dragon Age Origins as if I am just reviewing it. The second part, however, will be more so about me talking about the game's story in more detail, which will definitely include spoilers because, as this is an Overdue review, I'm sure many of you have already played and completed Dragon Age Origins several times over, and are just looking for more discussion on your favorite moments in the story, are just looking for more discussion on what may be one of your favorite games. So that's what the Overdue review is. I do feel like it is necessary to say up front that this isn't one of those intense analysis videos that are out there. I am not that smart. I am not capable of that. I am, however, able to talk at length about what I did like and didn't like about Dragon Age Origins in 2024. And so, without further ado, allow me to review Dragon Age Origins. So as this is a game released in 2006 and I am playing it again in 2024, the very first thing that appears to me is just how graphically dated the game looks. But again, this game released in 2006, so it makes sense. And I don't want to judge it too harshly for that because it is a game that is nearly 20 years old. I'm sorry, what? 2009, huh? Really? Let me just double check that. Huh. Well, I'll be. Let me just can I go again? So this game came out in 2009, and you know, when you look back on the games that released in 2009, you can't help but look at Dragon Age Origins and go, man, this game looks like shit. That's the first most apparent thing to me. In all seriousness, though, I absolutely thought this game came out in 2006, and that timeline made a lot more sense to me because I really thought BioWare went from Knights of the Old Republic to Dragon Age Origins to Mass Effect 1. Because that timeline seems gradual and makes sense to me. Mass Effect looks better and is more impressive, I think, than Dragon Age Origins. So it's shocking, especially because Knights of the Old Republic and Dragon Age Origins not only have the same combat system, but have the same dialogue system. Whereas Mass Effect started their dialogue wheel, Knights of the Old Republic and Dragon Age Origins both have the list of options. Definitely isn't my fault for thinking that that was the timeline for BioWare games. It was quite the shock to open this game up and see the 2009 in the bottom of the main menu. That really threw me for a loop and honestly threw me off for the entire game. So I don't know if you can really trust anything I have to say in this review. But once you get past the main menu and you get over the fact that this game is 3 years older than you thought it was, and you feel less so that the graphics are bad, by modern standards, they are bad. But once you settle into it, it feels more and more just like a purposeful art style that fits within the tone and setting and the whole narrative that was going on for Dragon Age Origins. And you kind of forget about it and you just kind of go along with the ride. And once you get past that, this game is still as great as you remember it being. May I be so bold to even say it's better than you remember. Like I've mentioned already, the first time I played this game was literally 10 years ago, so I have definitely grown up a lot in those past 10 years, from 14 to 24. I've done a lot of maturing, a lot of growth in my years, in my old age. I think I have like at least 2 gray hairs this time. Definitely have more hair on my body now than I did when I was 14, because I've been growing my hair out more often. What did you think? As the game's title would suggest, in Dragon Age Origins, when it comes to character creation, you're not only creating how your character looks, you are also choosing your character's origin story. And in doing this, you sort of set up your own backstory and where your game starts, which serves as a prologue. There are several options to choose from, including your race and your status within that race. Whether you're a human noble, a Dalish elf, or, for me personally, my playthrough, the city elf origin story. So everything I say from this point on when it comes to the story will be from the perspective of a female city elf. And as I'm sure we are all quite familiar with already, the story of Dragon Age Origins finds you. Despite your origin story, no matter what you do, you all get caught up in the middle of some sort of scenario that ends up with you enlisting into the Grey Wardens, who are honestly just a super cool group of people with the coolest name and the sickest armor that isn't in this game but is redesigned to be the coolest looking armor you'll ever see. And your whole goal is to stop the Darkspawn. The Darkspawn is a whole thing. There's a lot of deep lore that you are presented with immediately. If you want to dive into all of the lore, you'll get several codex entries throughout your playthrough. And when I say several, I really mean like dozens upon dozens. That will tell you the history of the world of Dragon Age, of this place we call the Dragon Age setting. I am not kidding. It's called Thedas, and it stands for the Dragon Age setting. You can learn all about the history of this world that is very extensive for a first entry in a franchise. It does world building extremely well. But I'm getting way off topic way too fast. The Darkspawn are the demonic creatures that crawl up from the ground and come to the surface to just raise hell. And it's up to you to stop them, because we're in the middle of a blight. The 5th blight that Thedas has faced. The blight is real bad, because the blight is when all these Darkspawn gather up and they get themselves a thing called the Archdemon that leads them to the surface. And they're like a lot more coordinated and is a more controlled assault on the surface world. And it's up to you as a new Grey Warden to help stop this. But I know what you're thinking. Those odds sound insurmountable. You against this horde of Darkspawn. Don't worry. You're joining a whole new team of Grey Wardens who are all equipped to fight against the Darkspawn. But naturally, that all sounds too good to be true. Through a series of events, you find yourself with no army behind you to fight against the Darkspawn. And it is up to you to unite the Kingdom of Ferelden against the common threat. In the midst of a civil war, it is up to you to find a way to get all of these different factions across the entire kingdom to unite under your banner and take the fight to the Archdemon and put an end to the blight, no matter what it may cost you. And it's a pretty sick setup as a story, because of course the stakes are incredibly high. The world will end if these Darkspawn and the Archdemon are allowed to run rampant, because they will not stop until everything's destroyed. If I'm being completely honest, I don't know why. I should probably look that up and then put a little edit into the video right now, unless there is no particular reason other than just wanting to destroy everything. I'm not going to go into the specifics of the story right now, right here, because while this is a 15-year-old game, this is still supposed to be the non-spoiler section of the Overdue review. Full-on story spoilers, breakdown, and play-by-play will be later on. Time codes if you want that immediately. Throughout this adventure, this journey you will go on, it's fucking epic as shit, dude. I did not remember that. This is one of the things that I'm referring to directly when I say, dare I say, it's even better than you remember it being. Because when it comes to Dragon Age and these BioWare games, What I remember are the party members and the ending. I don't necessarily remember the step-by-step how we got there. And in replaying Dragon Age Origins in 2024, I am immediately met with one of the most grand adventures I've played all year. And I've played Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Persona 3 Reload, and I'm sure there were other games this year that were really big, but nothing is coming to mind right now. And truly and honestly, Dragon Age Origins, it stands not necessarily toe-to-toe with those games, but it holds its own very well compared against the games of today. A 15-year-old game. It hit a lot harder than I remember. There was more drama than I remember. As this is a role-playing game, you will come across numerous choices across this journey, some of which were very complex. Although this was still a game from 2009, some of them were very black and white, but some of them were definitely more complex than I remember them being, and would have potential ramifications that would leave me sort of paralyzed, not knowing what options to choose. The longer you play the game, the more those black and white choices become more gray, living up to the name of a Grey Warden, which makes for a much more intriguing story than I remember it being. I very much remember it being just stop the end of the world from happening. There's a lot more going on with the politics of Ferelden than I remember. And maybe it's just because I was a 14-year-old dum-dum who didn't understand politics, because there's a lot of really cool shit going on. And other cool things that surprised me were the companions. Like I said, 14-year-old me, very basic kid, didn't have much going on for him. Could barely even grow a mustache. It was only one of those really thin mustaches that are really creepy, and I thought it was the coolest thing because I'm like, look, I have facial hair. It was really not a good look, and I'm so glad that I have more facial hair. Still can't grow a full beard at 24. I don't know what that's about, but whatever. Something else that didn't register for me then is just how in-depth these companions can be. 10 years ago, I only rocked with Alistair, Liliana, and Morrigan because they're the first ones you really come across. And I didn't really care to mix and match them. This is also the first party-based RPG I really played. Mass Effect came after this. I didn't play KOTOR until after this as well. So I didn't really understand the whole, you should really talk to everyone and not just pick your favorites. Although that is still a very viable way to play. I mean, there's no shame in that if that's what you do. That's definitely how I played Baldur's Gate 3. Which is another thing I do want to touch on. The fact that in 2024, we live in a post-Baldur's Gate 3 world. And if you were to ask me which game I would rather play between Baldur's Gate 3 and Dragon Age Origins, I would say Dragon Age Origins. Which I understand is definitely like a hot take. I'm sure people really love Baldur's Gate 3. But despite how much I don't like the combat system in Dragon Age Origins, I do still like it way more than Baldur's Gate 3's combat system. Because by the end of Baldur's Gate 3, it became very, very, very padded out. And it's especially fascinating to think about how BioWare made the original first two Baldur's Gate games, and then they made Dragon Age Origins, and then Baldur's Gate 3 has now been released. And when I played Baldur's Gate 3, all I could see were the comparisons to Dragon Age Origins. While I was playing Baldur's Gate 3 for the first time, I was like, this just feels like if they made Dragon Age Origins today. And to replay Dragon Age Origins after having played Baldur's Gate 3, that is very clear to me. Sorry about the Baldur's Gate 3 tangent. We're talking about the characters in this game. Like I said, I didn't mess around with many of the companions in my first playthrough 10 years ago, but with this new playthrough 10 years later, as a more mature person, I was like, I understand how RPGs work. I should be talking to everyone, learn all of their stories, and a lot of their stories are so cool. And some of these characters really surprised me. A character that I don't even remember if I got in my original playthrough, who really stood out to me in this playthrough, was Sten, the Qunari who doesn't look like a Qunari at all, because they didn't know what a Qunari looked like in 2009. They figured it out in 2011 with another game, but right now in this game they are just bigger dudes, which is very funny to see. Yeah, Sten really surprised me in this playthrough. So I'm going to go ahead and give him the MVP award for Dragon Age Origins. So shout out to Sten, the MVP of this game. Really surprised me in so many ways. We will definitely talk a lot more about Sten later in this video though. Beyond that, the one thing that really held this game back in a replay 15 years after the game released is that combat system. I touched on it a little bit when I was talking about Baldur's Gate 3, and I still prefer this combat system over the completely turn-based system in Baldur's Gate 3, but this combat system kind of sucks. It's not great, but it is a lot more passive. It's a lot, I can set it and forget it, whereas in Baldur's Gate 3, I really had to like pay attention, and it's just a whole thing. It got really exhausting towards the end of Baldur's Gate 3, and that's where my memories of Baldur's Gate 3 are the most at the end, because it's so long, you're there for so long. But we're not talking about Baldur's Gate 3. We're talking about Dragon Age Origins. It is also definitely worth mentioning, I was playing Dragon Age Origins on the Xbox 360 version, backwards compatibility with, you know, Series X and all that. So the combat system is very different depending on where you play between console and PC, because you can be a lot more tactical, pause and play, overhead view on PC, and the consoles just don't have that. But I wanted to use a controller, so I played on Xbox because I wanted to use a controller. I don't do keyboard and mouse. So without the tactical nature that the PC version is straight up giving you, the combat was very much set and forget, where I would just go up to an enemy, press A, and my character would start slashing. I would throw in a couple of X buttons in there, do a little ability, things like that. Definitely chugging potions. A little tap the B button, chug a potion. It was really great. And that was the entire combat system. Is it on me for not finagling it and making it more tactical for myself? Possibly. But I also just didn't think it was necessary. All I had to do was set it and forget it and make sure I would use a health potion. The combat system is the one thing that truly ages this game. Like I said before, while the graphics aren't great by modern standards, you do settle into it and it feels like its own art style. The combat system, however, no matter how long you play it, no matter how much you love everything else you are doing, the combat system is the one thing that's just like, ugh, gotta fight more guys. It's great. I love fighting guys, which honestly is kind of a testament to the game's quality otherwise, that the combat, which is a big portion of the game, despite not loving it like at all, I am still so high on this game because of how much everything else in it excels. This game, more so than any game I've played recently, I think is begging for a full-on remake, and that would be so good to potentially change it to make it more in line with what Dragon Age the Veilguard is going to do with its combat. Not necessarily same thing exactly, maybe even more so in line with Inquisition, to keep the 4-person party system intact in a remake, probably more leaning towards the Inquisition sort of playstyle and not necessarily the Veilguard. But, you know, make it faster paced, make it better, make the combat system more modern, and make the game very just visually stunning as the Veilguard is with Inquisition's combat, and I think you would have a pretty good seller on your hands. Just saying, EA, if you know you're out there. And it would especially be helpful to remake this game after the Veilguard releases, because hey, if you want to date when this video was recorded, the news about the Veilguard not carrying over your choices just happened. So, you know, if you remade this game, you could implement a new internal system that has these choices in the remake carry over for whatever the next Dragon Age thing is, and so on and so forth. But I'm getting ahead of myself. If you've never played Dragon Age Origins and you are interested in the franchise because you're hearing all this hype about Dragon Age the Veilguard, or Dragon Age the Veilguard is even out right now, and you're hearing so many people talk about how much they love it, or you just finished Dragon Age the Veilguard and you're curious about the origin story of Dragon Age. Dragon Age Origins is a great game still in 2024. Even when you put it against some of the biggest games releasing today, I would still say beyond its combat system, it is still able to compete with those games. So hey, if you haven't played it and you're curious about it, go play it. It's always on sale. It's like $10, less than that even for everything. So go play it. If you haven't, you really should. It's a great game still. That's all I can say for the review portion, the non-spoiler review portion of this video. Going forward, we will be going more in depth about the game's story, plot beat by plot beat, spoilers galore. And as this is a role-playing game with many choices, the story I tell to you now may be very different to the story that you just played or will play or have played, and is definitely different from the story I played 10 years ago. So strap in. We're gonna have fun with it. And now we are into the spoiler section of the Overdue review. And if you're familiar with the Overdue review, you'll know that the spoiler section is me going plot point by plot point, but I'm really just talking about the moments in the game that really stood out to me, the moments that I want to talk about without spoiling the game for people who maybe haven't played it before. I understand it's a really old game and a lot of you already have, but you know, there might be newcomers to the franchise who I don't want to spoil the game for, you know what I mean? So now on this side of the video, we are going full spoilers about everything. As this is a role-playing game, there are a lot of choices. So really what it comes down to is I'm going to talk about my choices. I'm going to talk about companion quest lines and just companions in general. Not all of them though, because some of these companions kind of sucked. I'm looking at you, Win. If you're a Win fan, you know, my bad. Let me know in the comments below, like yell at me, be very upset with me. Really, if I say anything at any point in this video that you don't like, yell at me in the comments. It really helps with engagement. And I tell you what, I'm sure there's something I'm gonna say in this video that you're not gonna like. I'm thinking of it right now. We'll get there when we get there though. So when it comes to Dragon Age Origins, there are a lot of choices, naturally, but none of these choices really start to happen until you leave Ostagar, which, by the way, Ostagar, that is like the set piece moment that really made me sit back in my chair and go, wow, this game is epic. I didn't realize that they were capable of doing this in 2006. Of course, this was still when I thought the game was in 2006. It's still pretty impressive for 2009, but you know, nothing of consequence really happens at Ostagar in terms of choices you can make. So we're gonna glaze on past that and get into the Breath of the Wild moment before Breath of the Wild, where you get these treaties and then it's just like, okay, go in any direction you want. Go help the elves, the dwarves, the people in Redcliffe, the mages, do whatever you want. Whatever order you want. At least I think it's any order. I did initially start off by going to the Dalish Elves, but immediately got my ass handed to me, so I left. So I don't know if it's like a level gated thing at all. If you know, let me know in the comments below, because I'd love to know. Beyond that, as I just laid out, there are those 4 main areas to go through. So we're going to go through those choices that I've made in those areas. When it came to Redcliffe, I did everything right. I saved everyone possible. I saved Connor, I saved Arl Eamon. Everyone lived. Everyone had a great life there. It was a really cool segue from Redcliffe to the rest of the game, because if you start in Redcliffe, once you get to the end of the Redcliffe quest line, they go, oh man, Connor's possessed by a demon. We could kill his mom to get the demon out. We could kill Connor to get rid of the demon, or we could go help the mages in the Circle of Magi and get their help to exorcise this demon properly. And then that's what I ended up doing. I went from Redcliffe straight to the Circle of Magi, helped the mages out, met this one guy. This dude really sucks. Kind of a little bitch, if we're being completely honest. He was trapped in one of those ray shields from Star Wars Episode 3. You know the ones. He kind of sucked. He's just very, very much like, you should kill every mage here. All the mages should die. And I'm like, dude, what's your deal? Chill out. I think his name was Cullen or something. Seems pretty unimportant. Whatever. But yeah, I went through all of the Circle of Magi and helped the mages in the end, because the Templars are very, very, they just wanted to kill the mages. I'm like, you guys need to chill out. And even afterwards, after I saved the mages, That Cullen dude, he came out again. He's like, you should probably kill them, though. You should still probably kill them all. I'm like, get out of here. Good thing I'm never going to see that guy again. Anyways, but before we move on from the Circle of Magi, I have to tell you, this is the part where I almost quit the game entirely. It was hell. I wanted to die. Because in the Circle of Magi, this is the part where you get put to sleep by the dream sleep demon or whatever the hell it's called. And then you gotta go through these stupid ass puzzles where you turn into a mouse and the mouse can go into a hole. And when you get into the hole, you can come out to another room where you can get like a little thing that helps you into other rooms. And then you become like an undead soldier at some point and become a golem. It sucks. It sucks so much. I hated it. I almost quit the game. It was so bad. And it just kept on going. And it was a whole thing where you had to go in a specific order to get the specific upgrades that would let you turn into the specific thing to go through the doors. And then you had to... Terrible. Terrible. If this game is remade like I proposed earlier, just cut this entirely. Like, don't even try to modernize this, just cut it. I don't know how you could possibly make this a fun segment in any game. I've seen a lot of chatter online about people talking about the deep roads. We'll get there in a second, but I gotta tell you, I don't know how people aren't yelling at the top of their roofs about this. And I see people complaining about the deep roads. I'm like, come on, guys. Now that we've helped the mages come back with us to Redcliffe to help out Connor, get that demon out of him without killing anyone. And it's a cool moment where they're like, hey, we got to send a mage in there, though, because this is like some sort of magical ritual. So you got to send a mage in there. At this point in the game, I did have Wynn, the boring old bag that she is, though. I was like, no, I'm not going to send you in there. Also, I sent Morrigan in there instead. And it was a cool moment where you got to spend some time with Morrigan alone with her own thoughts. It was pretty cool. You know, it was a really short moment in the game, but I really appreciated it. And also, when I call Wynn an old bag of bones, I guess I mean it, because at one point I did talk to her in camp and she was like, I'm so old. I don't know if I'll make it to the end of this journey, but I'll be by your side if I can. I'm like, are you that old? Should you be here? She was really talking about how old she was, like she was on death's door. It was weird. But yeah, once we've exorcised the demon whose boobs are out, which is wild. Really just wild to see that. I saw this 10 years ago when I was 14. That must have been a very, very exciting time for me. We get the demon out, and then they're like, hey, Connor's safe, and everyone in Redcliffe is going to be all right. Except Arl Eamon is still not waking up. Dun, dun, dun. So what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And then Alistair's uncle, Tegan, is all like, someone is like, you got to go find the urn of sacred ashes, and that will restore him. And I'm like, all right, I guess I'll go do that. I didn't go straight for the Sacred Urn of Ashes after that, though. I did instead return to the Dalish Elves to see if I was able to take on those werewolves. And I was. But along the way, on the journey to the werewolves, I was presented with a cutscene that Logain, I was going to start sending assassins after me because I'm out there starting to gather allies, you know? He didn't like that. So he sent an assassin after me. And in the very next cutscene, I ran into that assassin. Zevron, this guy, an Antivan Crow. And he sucks really bad. He did not kill me. A terrible assassin. And instead of killing me, I convinced him to join me. So that's pretty cool, you know? And I've heard so many good things about Zevron on the internet. People really like him, apparently. And I was like, I don't remember you. I don't think I got you before. Maybe I just have bad memory. It was 10 years ago, after all. I don't remember you, so glad to have you along, pal. Join the party. We go back to the Dalish Elves. We meet Zathora. Basically, it's like, hey, elves or werewolves, who do you want on your team? Elves. I want the elves on my team. We go talk to like the leader of the werewolves, who also has her tits out, and it's just like, geez. This game, I really must have loved this game 10 years ago as a 14-year-old boy, you know what I mean? They make the dilemma between the elves and the werewolves seem more complicated than I think it really is. Zathura cursed them, and now they're like, hey, if you kill Zathura, we'll turn back into people. And Zathura's like, I'm not gonna die though, don't kill me. I'm like, okay. So we killed the werewolves and the lady with her boobies out. And now Zathura's gonna help me. Well, very quick and easy to get through the Dalish Elf quest line. Just go and kill some werewolves, you know? Which leads us to the Dwarves of Orzammar, which are pretty much the complete opposite of the Dalish Elves. They are probably the most complex quest line to get through compared to everyone else's. With the Dwarves, it is still very much help us solve this problem and we'll help you, but the steps to solve the problem are a lot more. The very first thing you come across when you get to Orzammar is a murder. You are immediately shown that these dwarves are in their very own civil war against these two houses. And then it's up to you to decide who's going to be the king. But it isn't just, hey, go in there and choose. You must first prove yourself to one of these candidates by fighting in the proving ground to gain their trust. And then after that, you gotta go help them clean up the streets of Orzammar by going to a criminal cartel and taking them out. And then after that, it's still not enough to put them on the throne. So they're like, hey, go find Branka. She's a paragon. A paragon is like one of the most respected people in the dwarven community. And they're like, hey, she went down into the deep roads looking for something. Go find her, bring her back up here to the city, and then tell her to back me, and then I'll be king because people really respect her word as a paragon. And I'm like, okay. And then on the way down to the deep roads to find Branka is when we find Ogren, a little dwarven dude who, I'll say it, I don't like. He's kind of a pervert who's always burping and bumbling and is probably drunk. Like when I first met him, he was like, okay, he's just a dwarf guy. He's a new guy, you know, whatever. But once we got into the deep roads, at one point he asked Leliana if she was wearing underwear under her chantry robes. And I was just like, dude, what the fuck? So I really don't like that guy. Ogren, not a friend of mine. Not my friend. If he's one of your friends, you gotta have a talk to him, okay? Sit him down and tell him to be better. It's 2024. You can't be talking like that anymore. We go all the way down there into the deep roads, and it's fine. You're just going through the deep roads. It's some tunnels and caverns. I don't know what people don't like about it compared to the Circle of Magi dream sequence. It's so much better. But yeah, you just go down there, you fight some things, you fight a titty monster. Yeah, you heard me, I said it. You fight a titty monster. It's a monster with like 17 titties. You just keep on going deeper and deeper until you find Branka. And she's looking for this Anvil of the Void, which lets you make golems, which, you know, these rock creatures, which would really help against the Darkspawn and against any opposition you'll face in your lifetime ever. The dwarves would be stronger than ever. This is why she's down here, why she's been, what she's been searching for all of these years. Something that would make the dwarves so powerful forever. But it's this whole thing with like the history of the Anvil of the Void, where the creator of this anvil is also there as a golem, and he's like, it sucks. It's really bad. The only way to make a golem is by killing a dwarf to do it. So you would really have to kill a lot of dwarves to have an army of golems. So don't do it, please. Anyway, so we get the anvil and we destroy it. Branka died because we killed her. And it was a whole lot of work to get this golem, this old ancient paragon, to make a crown fit for whichever king I choose to back. And I go back to the dwarven city of Orzammar, and I'm like, listen, this crown was crafted by that paragon you all know from your ancient history textbooks. And he has entrusted it to me to choose whoever is to be king. And then I choose my guy to be king. And then the opposition just doesn't accept that. And we fight them and we kill them. And it's just like, couldn't we have done that earlier? It's a whole thing. And now we have the dwarven support. And that covers all of those factions we have to go out there and seek. When it comes to those quest lines, I would say it is a lot more black and white, one choice over the other, and not necessarily as complex or gray as it can be. We also need to go get the Urn of Sacred Ashes, and this is where I'm going to go ahead and start giving Sten so many flowers. Sten, the MVP of Dragon Age Origins. This is where I'm going to start to really talk about what I just really adored from that guy. The thing about Sten is that he's a Quinari. And Quinari, they're kind of hard to read. They don't really talk much. He's pretty much a closed book. A lot of times it feels like you're talking to a wall. And for some reason, I don't know why, but because of that, it made me want to learn more about him. Because he was so reserved, I'm like, what's your story, huh? What are you hiding? What aren't you telling me? I want to know. At one point, he's like, help me find my sword. I lost my sword. It's a big deal in Quinari culture, our swords. So please help me find my sword. And I had to go all through Ferelden to find it. I started really forming a bond with Sten. And honestly, if he was romanceable, I probably would have romanced him, but he's not romanceable as far as I'm aware. So I didn't, but I would have. I absolutely would have. Don't tell me you wouldn't. We're really getting along well. He was really starting to respect me. And then we go off to find the Urn of Sacred Ashes. And we get there and Sten is like,
hey, what's the deal? What's our plan here? Are we going to go all the way across the planet to attack the Darkspawn from behind?
I'm like, what? No, we got to go get this Urn of Sacred Ashes to help Arl Eamon. And he's like,
that's a bunch of shit. This is just some dead woman's ashes. How is that going to be helpful? How is this going to help us fight the Darkspawn?
And I'm like, dude, chill out. What are you talking about? What do you mean? Where's this coming from? Just listen to me. I'm the guy in charge, okay? I'm the one who's leading the way. And he's like,
are you sure about that?
I'm like, whoa, Sten, what are you talking about? And he's like,
I think I should lead.
I'm like, I beg your pardon. And then we fight. And I'm like, no, what did I do? What did I do wrong to do this? We were doing so well. I thought we really had a good rapport going. My approval rating was so high at this moment. I'm like, what did I do? What should I not go after this urn? And then I fight him. And he's kicking my ass. I'm chugging so many potions because you can just spam those things. And I finally beat him. It wasn't easy because he's been my powerhouse for majority of the game. So he's really well upgraded when I had to fight him. It was a really stressful fight. And then he's like,
all right, turns out you are fit to lead. So what now?
I could kill him. I could send him away, or I could be like, good, now we have a better understanding. And we had a better understanding of each other. And it was in that moment where I was like, man, I really, really like Sten, because I was actually scared of what might happen next, because I didn't know if I was about to lose him. Because he's also been, like I said, the powerhouse for my party the entire game. Kind of important, to soak up all that damage and deal all that damage. So he's a very big, important part of this game for me. But yeah, that's really all I really had to say about Sten. But yeah, we go get the Urn of Sacred Ashes. There's a dragon there. I don't kill the dragon because that dragon was kicking my ass. We go get the Urn of Sacred Ashes, and then we get out of there. We go back to Arl Eamon. We heal Arl Eamon, and it's like, okay, everyone is good and ready to go to Denerim. Oh, and by the way, at some point, Alistair pulled me aside and was like, hey, technically speaking, I am next in line to be the king of Ferelden. I know, crazy. Just throwing that on you. He doesn't want to be king, though. He doesn't want to be king. Before we get into Denerim, though, I will go ahead and go in depth about other companions. Leliana, I wanted to romance. I also remember wanting to romance her 10 years ago. I couldn't figure it out. I had the high approval rating. I flirted with her so often. Never had a romance scene, though. So I don't know how to do that, I guess. Turns out art imitates life sometimes. But yeah, I really liked Leliana. There was that really weird moment, though, where she started singing in the camp. And it wasn't her singing, it was just the background music being louder. It was a weird moment. And then we got Morgan. Morgan, she's also one of those characters with the hard exterior. So it kind of just makes you want to know what her deal is, want to get to know her better. I did get to know her very well, and through her quest line, I had to kill her mother. We learn that the reason her mom stays so young is that she kills her daughters, takes their bodies, Something along those lines. But yeah, it was a really cool moment where she's like, yeah, you gotta go kill my mom, but I can't be there because if you kill my mom while I'm there, what if she does something to me? So please go kill my mom. I'm like, all right, I'll go do it. And it was a pretty cool boss fight. Just kind of stood there and kept spamming the health potion button, but pretty cool. I enjoyed it. There's also Zevron. This guy, this Antivan crow who tried to assassinate me so long ago, who's joined the party. We're just bopping around Denerim, and then out of nowhere, we come across another Antivan crow who is sent to assassinate me. And he mentions, oh man, I see you don't have Zevron with you. I thought he'd be traveling with you. I'm like, well, no, I didn't bring him because I didn't really use Zevron. I didn't really talk to him. I didn't talk to him very much, I'll be honest. And he's like, I thought he'd be with you. I'm like, no, he's not with me. I left him at camp. And then out of nowhere, Zevron just shows up and he's like, oh, hey, I'm right here, man. Hey, man, what's up? And then they decide to team up and try to kill me. And I'm like, Zevron, what? What? Why? So I had to kill Zevron. I really have thought a lot about where I'm just like, man, people really like Zevron. Tell you what, Zevron, least valuable player. LVP. Terrible award to be awarded, I know, but hey, someone's got to get it. And for Dragon Age Origins, it's Zevron. Let me know how wrong I am in the comments below. Please do. It helps with engagement. And now we are finally caught up with everyone's quest lines that I did do at the very least. And then we get to Denerim. And in Denerim, we gotta do several things. We gotta go find proof of Loghain doing wrong things like, selling elves into slavery. And it's a really cool thing where I'm pretty sure because I played as a city elf, I had actual personal links to the elves that were being sold into slavery, which sounds weird to say. And also we have to free Loghain's daughter, Honora, who he had locked up. We break her out of her situation, but on the way out, we are just swarmed by so many guards where I die because there's just so many people. And I'm like, dang, all right, reload the checkpoint. Except the game kept going. It was a really cool, probably the coolest moment, honestly, where I died in combat and the game kept going. Where Honora and my party members got out and they're like, man, we left what's-her-face? What did they call my character? Because I'm not the hero for Elden yet. I don't even remember. Anyways, they're like, oh man, we left what's-her-face. They locked her up in some sort of castle. It was a really cool name. Fort Draken, I believe. And they're like, dang, we should go help her out. And so we cut back to me in the jail cell. And it's just like, hey, you want to break yourself out or you want to wait for your friends to arrive? And I'm sure if I selected wait for your friends to arrive, it would have been like, okay, you can play as them and break your character out. But I was like, nah, I got this. So I decided to break myself out. And it was a really cool little escape mission where you could disguise yourself in the guard's armor and talk to them, get secret code words and stuff. It was pretty cool. And it's designed unlike any other part of the game. It's very unique and it's very cool that the game allows that to happen. So anyways, I break out of there and now it's like, okay, we have proof against Loghain. Honora, we have everything to go call a Landsmeet where all of the noble houses of Ferelden meet, and then we have a nice discussion about Loghain. And this is the part where I played a little bit dirty, I'll admit. We get there to the Landsmeet, and Loghain's talking up to everyone, saying how right he is, even though he's so wrong. And I'm like, this guy's selling elves into slavery. It's pretty messed up, guys. He's a pretty messed up guy. And he's like, huh.
I had to do what I had to do, Also, where's my daughter? You stole her from where she was being held safely.
And I'm like, oh, you mean the daughter you had locked up and imprisoned, essentially? And then she's like, I can speak for myself. And I'm like, here we go. Honora, let him know. And then she comes out and she's like, the Grey Warden is everything that is wrong with Ferelden. The Grey Warden sucks. I hate the Grey Warden. All of the noble houses should hate the Grey Warden. She's trying to take over, and she's an elf with knife ears, and she sucks. And I'm like, what? What did I do? And I'm like, dang it. I didn't talk to her because I'm having flashbacks now. She's like, hey, make sure you talk to me so that we can ensure I become queen, because she wants to become queen. So I reloaded a save, truth be told, because I just forgot, okay? So I reloaded a save. There's no harm in that. I reloaded the save. I talked to her and she's like, I'll be queen. I'm like, all right, how about you be queen with Alistair? Sounds like a pretty good deal, right? And this is the part in the game that I was talking about way earlier in this video. This video is a lot longer than I meant it to be. I am sorry. But where I was talking about how the game's choices can be extremely complex and very, very gray. This is where I am talking about. Where Honora is all like, hey, I'll be queen, you know? I want to be queen. Just do whatever it takes to get me the crown. I was essentially already the queen because she was married to King Merrick and she was doing like all of the actual work of being queen. So she's like, just do that. That'd be the smoothest transition. I'm like, okay, cool. But Alistair has the bloodline of King Merrick. You know what? I've been saying King Merrick this whole time, and I'm sure everyone's been annoyed with me. King Merrick is Alistair's dad. King Kaelin is Alistair's brother who died and was Honora's husband. So if I said Merrick at any point earlier in this video, just know that I meant Kaelin. But because Alistair has the blood of King Merrick, of King Kaelin, and all of that bloodline, people are going to support Alistair because of that. So I'm like, what if you guys married each other, you know? And she's like, you want me to marry my dead husband's brother? And I'm like, yes, absolutely. I go speak to Alistair. I'm like, hey, would you marry Honora and become king and queen, you know? And he's like, okay, yeah, I'll do it. Yeah, okay, no problem. I'm like, great. So we go back to the Landsmeet. Logain's over there talking up a storm to everyone. And he's like, then what did you do with my daughter? I'm like, you mean Honora who you locked up? And she's like, I can speak for myself. Everyone, my father is not the man you once knew him to be. He sucks now. I'm like, great. Excellent. And then we come to the point where they're like, okay, what do we do with Logain? Do we kill him? Do we have to kill Logain now? What had happened was this new Grey Warden, Riordan, that we found, he's like, hey, we might want to have more Grey Wardens around, so maybe we should just turn Logain into a Grey Warden. How does that sound? And I'm like, that sounds like a pretty good idea. We should turn him into a Grey Warden because I do remember what's about to happen and why we need more Grey Wardens. Even though Riordan won't tell us, he should probably tell us. You know, I'm sure everyone would be very cool with it if you told us. He's like, we should probably have more Grey Wardens. I'm like, you should turn Logain into one. I'm like, that sounds great. And then Alistair's like, absolutely the fuck not. I will not stand for this. I will not be a Grey Warden while Logain is a Grey Warden. I'm like, oh, okay. I'll kill Logain then. And then I kill Logain. And then Honora's like, all right, I do not want to marry Alistair now because my dad is dead now because Alistair was being a little baby about it. I'm like, whew, my bad. Okay. And because I want Alistair and Honora to be king and queen, I reload the save. It's a very Groundhog's Day segment of this game for me. We've done the choices right once again, and we're back here, and it's like, okay, keep Logain alive, let him become a Grey Warden. And then Alistair is all like, absolutely not, I said. I'll tell you what, fine, I'll be the king. I'll stand up right now and I'll be the king if it lets me kill Logain. I'll be the king if it means I can get rid of Logain in whatever fashion I see fit. And I'm like, whoa, dude, what about you and Honora? You know, that's what's supposed to happen. And then Honora's like, absolutely not. He's being a man-child right now. He wants to be king just to kill my father. I will not allow that to happen. I'm like, what? What am I supposed to do here? And so I'm like, I guess let Logain live. And then in letting Logain live, Alistair is very, very upset about it. And he's like, I'm going to leave the Grey Wardens then because I don't want to be a Grey Warden. If he's a Grey Warden, something or other. I think I'm getting some of the details wrong here, but broad strokes, it's right. And then Honora's like, Alistair, hey, you have to die. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? Because Alistair still has a claim to the throne. And she's like, I will not let him go on to gather support and try to take the throne from me. So I have to kill him. And so at that point, I reload save, Groundhog's Day. I look up what I'm doing wrong because I'm just like, I must be doing something wrong. And apparently you have to do Alistair's companion quest line first because he isn't, as the game puts it, hard yet. It's a really unfortunate phrasing for this game where after you complete his quest line in a specific way, where you talk to his sister, who's a terrible person, he will become quote unquote hardened, which was really unfortunate because I typed into Google search, how do you get Alistair hard? And yeah, so I did that correctly. I got Alistair hard. And now that Alistair was hard, we went back to the Landsmeet and we did the whole thing. And we got back to the moment in time where I'm like, okay, I want Loghain to become a Grey Warden. And at that point, Alistair's like, I beg your pardon. I do not want him to become a Grey Warden. He killed all the Grey Wardens. He's why they're all dead, why Duncan is dead, and so on and so forth. And then Nora says, Alistair, come on, grow up. And Alistair's like, okay, I will grow up because I'm hard. I'm so rock hard right now that I'm going to be an adult about this. And he's like, okay, I will have to leave the Grey Wardens because I don't want to be a Grey Warden while he's a Grey Warden. And I also have to leave the Grey Wardens because I'm going to be king, you know? So I can't do both. I'm like, I accept those terms. And he's like, really? Wow. You picked Loghain over me. That's how he put it? And I'm like, no, I let you become king. And now Loghain's going to live. It's a whole thing. Now that whole ordeal of the Landsmeet is over with and done with, Loghain successfully becomes a Grey Warden. He doesn't die in the ritual. Surprise, surprise. And then Morrigan, who I've come to be very close with, I would say. She's like, hey, come see me after you talk to Riordan. Because Riordan then lays out to us, hey, we need to have a Grey Warden nearby because when a Grey Warden kills an archdemon, they die. They suck up the soul and die. And then I'm like, damn, probably should have told us that earlier. Maybe Alistair would have understood, you know? But now he's just safe being king, but whatever. And then I'd go talk to Morrigan and she's like, hey, listen here. There's a way for you to kill the archdemon and live. You just gotta do this little thing I like to call the dark ritual. It's really easy, all right? You just gotta get me pregnant. I'm like, I'm a woman. I'm like, no, not you. Not you specifically. Go convince Loghain, you know, the guy who's been the antagonist this entire game. Go tell him to come sex me up and put a baby in me. Go tell him that. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? What are you talking about, Morrigan? Do that. And when you kill the archdemon, my baby will suck up the archdemon's soul instead. I'm like, what? Is that okay? And she's like, yeah, it's fine. And I'm like, I don't know. I think I'll just go let Loghain kill himself, honestly. Like, that was my whole plan when, like I mentioned, I remembered the ending of Dragon Age Origins. So I'm like, if I let Loghain live, I can go let Loghain die so that my character can continue on to exist in this world in Dragon Age 2, in Dragon Age Inquisition. You know what I mean? So I was like, I mean, Loghain's alive, so that I'll just let him go die and kill the archdemon, you know? And Morrigan was all like, that could be a good idea, but she really knew how to get in my head about this. She said, then you would just become a footnote in Loghain's accomplishments. You would only be the person who helped Loghain end the blight and not the person who ended the blight. You know what I mean? Because Loghain had this whole story of redemption. Good for him. That's what people will say in the history books, is what Morrigan is saying to me. And she's like, and then people will forget about you. You were just also there. You just helped him. You know? It's just like, dang. And she's like, if not for yourself, think of Leliana, who apparently she knew I wanted to romance, even though I never did because I didn't know how. I'm like, all right, you convinced me. She really had some good, speech checks there. I'll go talk to Loghain. You convinced me, but now I got to go convince Loghain. And I go talk to Loghain and he's like, okay. For me personally, it would not take much convincing at all to, come on. And it was so weird to watch a scene with Morrigan and Loghain. It's just, oh my God. I wanted to burn my eyes out. But baby's been made. God, that was such a gross thing to say. Denerim is under attack. It is fiery and darkspawn are all over the place. And we make our way to the archdemon. And it is not a very exciting boss fight at all. I kind of just Stood there and shot a ballista at it until it died. Very enthralling fight. But we win. And I live. And Morrigan, she mentioned, hey, once this archdemon's dead, I'm going to leave. You're never gonna see me again. And I'm like, are you sure don't you wanna like hang out for the party or anything? She's like, I'm gonna leave. And then we do the whole thing. I kill the archdemon, I live, Loghain lives, Morrigan leaves, Alistair is king, Honora is queen. Life's good, you know? That's the end. We did it. This video is so fucking long. I don't know how long this is gonna be in the final edit. I hope I cut it down a lot, because there's a lot that I said. I don't know how much of it was needed. And I appreciate you especially if you made it this far. But yeah, that was my entire journey for Dragon Age Origins, and is the way my world state will be going forward in Dragon Age 2, Inquisition, and not Veilguard apparently. There's a lot of DLC content for Dragon Age Origins that I honestly didn't really play. I did play Return to Ostagar because that was sort of baked into the game itself. I did Witch Hunts as well, which didn't really have much of anything, just Morrigan stepping through the Alluvian? I think I pronounced it right. I know Awakening is like the big one that everyone really loves, but by the end of the game, I was a little bit tired of the combat. So I didn't really do Awakening because there was a lot to really get through at once, so I just didn't. That's it for Dragon Age Origins. I did it. If you made it to the very end of this video, I really appreciate it. Let me know all about your thoughts and your opinions on Dragon Age Origins in the comments below. This 15-year-old game means a lot to me, so I'm sure it means a lot to a lot of other people out there, and I'd love to hear about your thoughts about it in the comments below. And of course, Dragon Age the Veilguard is right around the corner as of recording. Maybe it is out by the time you are watching this video. So naturally, I'm going to continue on to the Dragon Age series to get to the Veilguard. So coming at some point soon will be the Overdue review of Dragon Age 2. So look forward to that. And if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button so you'll be notified when it happens. If you made it this far, I'm sure you'll like the content enough to do so. And until that happens, as always, stay safe and play some video games.